Hey guys, really happy to bring someone back. This is Jason Pritchard with us today. I think he was video 3 or 4 on this channel. Lots of great feedback and content from that. So I had to bring him back, and brought him back because he hit his goal. If you go back and watch his video, he talked about getting to 25 rentals, and he got there. So congratulations, Jason.
Thank you very much, Michael. It was with some help from you, and I definitely appreciate that. We officially recorded, I want to say it was the 28th, Friday, December 28th. So we made it with 3 days left to spare. So it was good. It was right down to the wire, but we made it.
Yeah, well, congratulations. Goals like that, and just so everybody remembers, what was the goal at the goal was 25, but how many did you have at the beginning of the year?
So January of 2018, I started the year off with 9 total units. That was basically all single-family houses and 1 duplex. And I had set the goal at the beginning of 2018 to get the total number of units or total number of doors to 25.
Right.
And so it took a kind of a shift in my mindset at the beginning of the year to try to start figuring out ways to hang on to more of the properties, because up until that point, I had acquired 9, which was good, but I was selling more than I was keeping.
Yep.
And I think I had some limiting beliefs and some just things that that were more mental roadblocks than anything else that were stopping me from really stepping on the gas. And I just said, you know what, I know that I'm capable of doing it. Let's set what felt like a really big number to me at that time, and see if we can get there. And we got there. So that was good.
I'm so proud of you. It's awesome to see somebody reach out that far and make it happen. But I want to talk about that 25th deal, because it was really, frankly, you gave me credit. I don't think I deserve any. It was your video. And at the end of your video, you talked about, hey, not only, basically not have I only given you my whole background, my story, but you know what? I occasionally look for private money, because, that's a very common thing in this business. You made that request. You were that professional. And somebody in our network, right, the subscribers of this channel, called you up and probably said, hey, I saw your video on Zuber's channel, and you guys kicked it off and had a discussion. So why don't you talk about that phone call and how that started before we get into the deal. So how many phone calls did you get? You got a couple, I think.
Yeah, I had a few people that reached out to me, and I'll preface everything that you said with one caveat. I think that what I've learned over the 4 years of doing this is that you have to ask, and you can't be afraid to ask. And one of the things, the relationships that I initially started with the private lenders that I have relationships with was just out of me asking and doing that exact same thing that I did at the end of our first video. And, I'd go to meetups and different things, and I would just at the end say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. If I had lunch meetings or different things, I would just, be very frank and just say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And, it's funny how when you ask for things, they come to fruition. So that's exactly what happened. Like you said, we shot the video. About a day or 2 later, a mutual friend reached out, and we had a discussion about, just kind of, it's very casual at first, which I like. It's not all business. It's not numbers. It's just kind of a getting to know you type thing, right? And one of the things that I like a lot about real estate is that I can kind of pick and choose almost who I get to work with. And I didn't get to do that when I had my corporate jobs, right? You're almost forced to, the bosses and the coworkers you have, you don't really get to pick them.
Yeah. And
in this business, I want to do business with people that I like and that I trust. And once we can kind of get over that hump, if there's some mutually beneficial solution that we can come up with, then even better. And so we talked, and it turned out that based off of a deal that I had coming up, and the type of lending that I was trying to secure in order to purchase that property was something that fit what he was looking for.
Yeah.
And it went together very easily, to be honest with you. I mean, from the first conversation to the time that escrow documents were getting drafted up, I mean, it was maybe a couple weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
So it was good, very smooth.
Yeah, so let's break that apart, because I'll let you sort of go through the details if anybody after this video calls you again, but I want to break apart the parts so people understand what's going on.
Sure.
So let's talk about the house first, right? You were brought a deal, I believe, again, by someone in your network. I think actually someone in your office at this point brought you
Correct.
a house, and you're like, I want that to be number 25. And then let's talk about that first. So let's talk about the house. What was the story?
The house, obviously the deal, the way that I look at it is the deal kind of dictates everything, right? And so you always have to start with that. Mm-hmm. Thankfully I'm in a local brokerage. I have a great broker. His name's Brandon Gonzalez with Iron Key Real Estate. He's really kind of let me flourish and not just help his business, but also helped me kind of grow my business within, underneath the Iron Key umbrella, which has been great. And, we talk all the time, and he's very in tune with kind of some of the things that I'm looking for. And he just happened to reach out to me and say, hey, you know what? I got a potential deal for you. Somebody had come to him with a property, and he ran it by me. We took a look at the numbers. We went back and forth. I went out and checked it out. I gave a number, and, we were able to come to a deal with the seller, and, everybody was pretty happy with how things came out.
Yeah. So let's talk about that just a little bit more. So the number, right? So when you went out, you had to come up with a purchase price, and then you had to also calculate an ARV. And in between that numbers is obviously at least a swag at a repair cost, right? So when you say
Correct.
the number, there are three different numbers that were important to you because, again, they dictate the deal, right?
Correct.
So,
Absolutely.
So
So we could just ballpark the numbers.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
I think the after repair value on that particular property was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $160,000.
Okay.
3-bedroom, 1 bath, about 1,000 square foot house. It had a long-term tenant that had been there, I think, close to 5 years. They're paying $1,100 a month in rent, which was about the top for that area, which I was happy with.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, that a lot of the houses that I buy are distressed and in need of a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
This one was, there's some stuff that needs to be done, but strictly cosmetic. Not a whole lot of things that need to happen to get it to that 160 number. And the thing that I liked is, number one, it did have a long-term tenant. The tenant wanted to stay. From everything that I could see when I did my visual inspection, they had been taking care of the house. You can really get in there and pretty much tell right away somebody that, treats it like a home versus treats it like a rental property, right? And just beats it up. They had, all their Christmas decorations up. Everything was nice and tidy. Bathroom was clean. Kitchen was clean and organized. All the things that I want to see from a good tenant. And, I ended up making an initial offer in the low hundreds, I think. And then we ended up settling at about 110.
Right.
110 was the actual number. And, I felt there was a big enough spread for me to go in and do the initial repairs after it cash flow for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And have enough room in there where, when I go to refinance it, I'm not going to run into too many issues just based off of the value.
Yeah. So again, let's just play it forward. So right in this model, you found an asset that, after you cleaned it up, that you would go back and get appraised, right? Because that's going to be part of the refi. And you expect that appraisal to come in at 160-ish.
Correct.
You're into the asset for 110. So then, you don't have a time frame on the refi, or actually you're expecting 90 days, or when do you think you'll be ready to pull the trigger on that one in this sort of this
types of properties? So generally with these type of properties, Michael, I'll usually keep them with my private lenders for somewhere in the neighborhood of about 6 months.
Yeah.
And that timing is it's kind of twofold. Usually I have some work that I need to do. So it gives me time to go in there, do the work, get all the repairs and things that I need to do, get it filled mm-hmm. if it's vacant with another new tenant. And then I can go take it to my more conventional lender and get it seasoned on some type of long-term financing or refinance some long-term financing. In this particular case, because it already has a tenant there, I'm going to do what repairs that I can while the tenant is there. I've already made those arrangements with them. I'm kind of in a position of strength because the tenant does not want to leave. And so, it's going to maybe be some inconvenience in the short term, but then they're going to get a nicer house to live in they're happy with. So it's not the end of the world. I'll force a little bit of appreciation into the property and get it closer to that 160, 165 number. Yep. And then, 4 to 6 months down the road, I'll go to my conventional lender. They'll give me a loan for 75% of 165, let's call it that. And that should be enough after fees to either pay my private lender back all of his original principal in full. And if not, let's say it comes in at 160 or 155, and I got to bring a few bucks to the table to get it closed, it's not the end of the world, because then I've got a cash flowing asset. My payment goes down, the rate goes down. I keep it long term, so I don't have any problems either way. So this is exactly how you should use private money. Frankly, you're going in and you're buying asset at a bargain basement number, and the reason you can do that is because it won't go conventional, right? It won't appraise at that number. You're going to go and you're going to fix it up, have the sweat equity. Then you go to the network, right? Which in this case was the channel, and somebody comes in for the 110. And you set up, you guys discuss what the terms and the rates and all that stuff are, and then then it exits. So
At one point, this individual sort of called me and said, "What do you think?" Both about you and the structure.
Yeah.
And first off, you wouldn't be on this channel, and certainly wouldn't be on it twice if I didn't think you were an A+ player. So that went pretty easy. I did have one tweak. Do you remember what that one tweak was?
Yeah, I think right off the top of my head, I think that if we wanted to do an extension, there was going to be an additional, let's call it an origination fee or a fee that gets paid out, which is totally fair and I think pretty standard when you're in these kind of deals. So then that way, there's a little bit of extra icing on top for the person that's lending if the money's got to, stay still for another 90 days while, you're figuring something out, right? And those things happen. I've been fortunate where, Frank, I haven't had to do many extensions. I think like one or two over the maybe 100 deals that I've done in the last 4 years. But things do come up, and you have to have a safety net in there, and you have to have some protection in there for everybody. And so, that's totally fair.
Yeah, and again, what I was adding to the agreement, contract, whatever you want to call it, between the two of you was, it was really a nothing, but it did clear up any ambiguity of what happens just in case, right? I lived and invested through the '08 crash. Now, I do not expect '08 to come back. I do not expect that to come back. Let me say that again. However, having invested through that, I know that it is best to declare upfront any and all things that could go wrong. So the only thing I saw in that agreement between the two of you was, okay, after 6 months, if you can't refi out, or actually I think maybe it was after 9 months, if you can't refi them out because whatever happens, the lending market freezes up or whatever, I want you to have a little bit of pain, you, Jason, right? So you have to kick in a few dollars. And that basically buys another 90-day window to try to get things done. Because maybe you don't refi it, you sell it, whatever. Basically, I just wanted there to be no ambiguity about what happens at day, 270 or whatever it was in your guys' agreement. I don't think
you're right. It was after the 9 month, because I think I had written an optional 3-month extension in there, and that's usually pretty standard. Where the term is 6. There's an optional 3-month extension, but if we happen to go beyond, then then you have that in there too. And I think that's fair, because if that lender has some other place he wants to put that money, like you said, there's got to be a little bit of extra skin in there for him in order to keep them happy. And
I think it works for everyone. I have no reason to expect that you will ever need to use that. I just think it's the right thing to do, especially if anybody on this channel, my network is going to work with a guy that I work with in my network. I want to be protected, because I don't want somebody to come to me, right, and say, "Hey, I saw that video, I did a deal with him, and blah, blah, blah." So come to me, let me look at stuff, let me put my stamp on it. And, it just protects everyone. Again, I don't think it'll ever get used, but I do think it clears up, because these hard money guys that are actually lending, they plan their money out, right?
Oh yeah.
They're like, I'm going to give him this, and I got to plan what I'm going to do in 9 months. And then if it comes in early, they're happy. But right, that these guys just keep it moving, right? Making these interest rates that they do, they don't want it sitting. So I think it made a lot of sense. So I'm really happy this worked out for both of you. I know both of you are very happy with how it went down. You got to 25. So let's just, since I got you, why don't we talk about your goals for this year? We just rolled in. I think we're day 4 of the new year. What's the goal for this year? And how many of those do you think you're going to need private money for? We might as well just put it out and ask again.
Sure. So some of the goals that I have, specifically dealing with the rental portfolios, I like to go from 25 to 50.
Oh, I like it.
So what that's going to involve for me is continuing to do what's been working. And what's been working is all the marketing that I've been doing to find these off-market deals and getting some of these smaller single families and smaller multifamily properties. You got to keep going to the well, because I've just found once you find something that works, you just got to duplicate it and do it as much as you can, right?
Yep.
I'm not sure that's going to get me to where I want to be. So one of the things that's a kicker to that deal is I want to get into my first apartment building. And so I think something like maybe like a 6 to 10 unit building, that's going to eat up a big chunk of that, that 25 that I need to buy this year, along with kind of what I'm doing already. And I should be able to do it. And so, I'm actively marketing for apartments. I'm trying to, shorten the learning curve as much as I can as far as penciling those things out and the lending. And I think, a lot of times the things that, you're hesitant about and resistant to is you just got to lean into them, And so, I've been kind of hesitant to that, and I've been comfortable just doing houses and some of these things where they're easy. The finding financing on a house is easy, even if it's a rental property, right?
Yeah.
And so, you got to go, I want to take a step up and start buying some apartments this year.
Yeah.
So,
So let me just give you some words of I don't know, experience, I guess, because I made that jump in, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, right? 5s through 20, or 18 is the biggest one I own. I own a couple of those. First off, commercial financing is really not that much different than residential, except the stack of papers is 2x.
yeah,
Down payments are pretty restrictive in Fresno. You're going to need 35%.
that's what I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to get terms. You may get amortization over 30, usually 25, sometimes 20. So your amortization periods are shorter, which affects payment, obviously. You're going to get fixed rates for 3, 5, 7. I've seen one at 10. And then there's either a refi or the interest rate adjusts, right? So you won't get 30-year money. The best time to refi is after you've had 90 days after rent increases, so that it's seasoned. Other than that, it's really, houses are just easier, frankly, because you get residential and there's just a different financing engine.
Yeah.
Appraisals are different. They cost a lot more. That's a big deal, right? A house appraisal is like $495 or $375 or something.
Yeah. $300-400 is what I'm paying.
Commercial's like $4,000.
Yeah.
And frankly, not that much different, which is shocking. But anyways, so that's some advice or experience I have. I think you're going to do great. I think what you're doing off market's going to lead to some of these. I would probably market to sub 20. Probably stay away from the bigger ones, just because I think there's less of them. But I think if you go through the 5s through 10s to 15s, I think you're going to do just fine.
Yeah, that's kind of the target for me. So it's really being very intentional about the marketing that we're doing. And, setting a plan and then executing the plan every day.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know what? I just thought of one more thing you should think about, and you should probably watch the video from this morning with Bob. I would actually tweak your marketing to apartments and actually should suggest owner financing.
Okay.
You watch that video this morning, you can actually highlight, because you actually have Bob, a CPA and an IRS accountant, talking about how you can position owner financing so that it's a huge tax benefit to the seller. I would absolutely do that, is suggest owner financing, because a lot of these guys have owned them 15, 20, 30 years. They still want the income stream, but they're afraid of the huge tax hit because they're
Yeah, no, I've seen that. I've done some owner finance on single family stuff, and I found that the savvier, the more seasoned the investor is, the more open, because they understand, the tax liability that they're going to have. And so that's a great tip. Yeah, I'm not mentioning that specifically, so probably we'll tweak the piece that I'm sending out.
There you go. Then you can throw me a lead when you
there you go. That's right.
All right, man. Anything else you want to close with? Because I just thought we'd get on and we'd talk about your success getting to 25, this channel helping you. And then since I had you, we talked about this year. So anything you want to close with?
I just want to say thanks for the, obviously I look up to you, and I'm aspiring to do some of the things that you've done. So I appreciate, being able to just even talk to you and, kind of, get this information from somebody like you that's been there, done that through, different cycles and all that stuff. Right. And to echo how I ended the last video, if there is anybody else, I've got more deals than money right now that I can use. And if I'm going to scale up, and not just my rental portfolio, but I'm still actively fixing and reselling property and doing a lot of other things too. And I've got a lot of big plans and big goals for this coming year for other aspects of my business. And I'm using a lot of private money for that as well. So if, there's anybody else that's interested, I'd love to be able to talk to you about doing a deal.
Why don't you close with your phone number so they know how to get a hold of you?
Sure. Yeah. Cell phone is the best way to get a hold of me. It's area code 559-994-1821. Call or text anytime. I work 8 days a week. So
I love it. All right, man. Thank you again for this. Congratulations on your success. And I look forward to seeing what you do in 19.
I appreciate you. Thank you, Mike.